This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
You're welcome back into the conversation on Tech Now. This morning, we turn to something a bit more centered on the Nigerian space. They say charity begins at home after all. This morning, we are looking at a report from the Nigeria Data Protection Commission, the NDPC, which has said that it is actively investigating 17 major cases of data breaches across various sectors, including finance, technology, education, consulting, government, logistics, as well as gaming and lottery. The National Commissioner of the NDPC, Dr. Vincent Olatunji, made the disclosure at the Global Data Privacy Day on Sunday in Abuja. Now, in June of last year, the NDPC disclosed that Zenith Bank, GT Bank, Fidelity, Leadway Insurance, Babcock University, and some companies were under investigation for alleged data breaches. By October of 2023, the Commission said it was investigating OPay, Meta, and DHL for alleged data breaches as well. Joining us this morning is Ozo Omosigo, the technical lead for 0 and 1. Mr. Omosigo, good morning and thank you for joining us on the conversation.
Yes, good morning.
What do you make of this report from the NDPC regarding data breaches?
Well, the report is good from the sense of, from the perspective of, it shows that they are being active, and the entire concept around data breaches are things that we are paying attention to. So that is a good thing, because it's showing that, yes, the commission is more active. However, as part of that report, there seems to be almost a celebration of some sort, to the fact that, for example, 400 million naira has been generated as revenue as part of the process. I think that the commission will do well focusing on things that help to protect individuals and organizations, as opposed to, looking at it from a revenue point of view. So I think that, having the right compass and the right focus is very key to the success of, what the commission is supposed to be doing. So I think that efforts should be concentrated on helping and enabling organizations to better protect themselves, and then obviously subsequently to better report when there are incidences, all still in a bid to help protect individuals,
Well, I mean, perhaps it's worth saying that the bit of the revenue generation may have just been an aside. It's typically how conversations go when government functions do come along. Although I do wonder your thoughts on the sectors that were mentioned, right? So the NDPC chair actually mentions certain businesses that they're investigating, and notably a number of them are banks. A couple of them are some of the major banks in the country. It's not new to hear data breaches from the banking sector. What are your thoughts on how we've been able to approach minimizing the number of incidences?
Right. So in terms of the sectors, and if we're talking specifically about the financial sector and the banks, right? I think one thing to understand is the banks are a juicy target for threat actors across the globe, right? The nature of what banks do and the amount of money available within banks provides, a perfect target for highly skilled threat actors to target. And so it's not going to be, it's not uncommon, and it's not surprising to see that, banks top the list, right? In terms of what are we doing to help protect, and this goes back to the initial point I made, our focus really should be trying to see, okay, what should be done to help organizations better protect this data that is in question. And a significant factor in that, or what plays a significant role, is policy, right? So these organizations, they need to pay more attention to cybersecurity, what we call security controls, right? They need to have better security controls in place in order to be able to help protect people's data. And what that means is significant investment in technology, significant investment in people, significant investment in improvement in the processes around data protection. And there's a whole lot that comes with that, right? But it is investing heavily in that space. And in order to drive that, it has to be government that regulates and government that enforces policy that allows, that enables organizations to pay attention to compliance. Those are the key things that are going to drive the sector.
Still talking about the issue of protecting organizations, the NDPC indicated that there's been an increase in the number of data protection compliance organizations. It jumped by 60, beg your pardon, from 103 to 163. Is this jump an indication that more organizations are paying attention to data breaches? And is it at the same time an indication that the NDPC is doing more than rejoice at the opportunity to increase its revenue?
Okay, so in terms of the number, I think that we should pick the right numbers to celebrate. An increase to 163, to be honest, is not something that is a big deal, in my opinion. With 60 organizations that help in relation to data protection compliance, right? Okay, that's fine, but that's 163 as opposed to how many organizations do we have? And so, in terms of what metrics do we show to show performance or delivery, I think that I think the right thing should be picked. So I don't think that is a significant enough number given the number of entities that we have in the country, right? And having these organizations in the first place, that's fine, right? But there's a whole lot more to do in terms of actually chasing these organizations to get compliance. And I think one of those key factors is education. I think that the commission needs to concentrate significantly on educating the organizations as opposed to just trying to throw the blanket, compliance, you have to comply. There needs to be way more activities that are geared towards educating, enlightening, and drawing these organizations to better understand why they even need to comply.
It's interesting that you talk about, your thoughts on the number of companies, and you're not wrong. It is an abysmally low number when you talk about how many businesses are registered and use online services or data to carry out their operations. If at the moment the NDPC is seeing these number of breaches, even with a small pool of compliant companies, I wonder if you think they have the capacity to take on more.
So I do not believe that we are even scratching the surface when it comes to organizations that have been breached and data that is exposed or data that's been compromised, individual data or organizational data that's been compromised. I do not believe that we're even scratching the surface, because in order for you to know that there's a breach, something would have happened, right? It's either maybe significant amounts of data might have been, exposed in certain forums or online, or somebody is reporting that, there's an incident, right? There's a lot that we are not aware of. So certainly, do I think that we have the current capacities to be able to, properly detect incidences that happen and breaches? I do not think so. I definitely do not think that we have the right capacities yet. And there's also the factor of the private sector. The commission needs to work with the private sector significantly. And when I say private sector, I mean organizations that specialize in cybersecurity and data protection, beyond just defining that we have, certain organizations that help with compliance. Because it's a full ecosystem where you have organizations that specialize in security controls, and these security controls are required by organizations in order to protect data in the first place. So it's not just chasing them and saying, you're not in compliance or not. It's putting in place the enabling framework to enable organizations to actually comply.
Mr. Mosigo, Babcock University is one of the institutions that is mentioned by the NDPC as being investigated for data breaches. Now, I know that this is not the first time that they are facing this sort of situation. Between the year 2005 and 2007, they had a data breach that saw the school fees of some students lost due to hackers. Now, I'm asking this question because you talked about education for companies to be more aware of cybersecurity threats. Is there a need to sort of domicile cybersecurity as a course of study amongst educational institutions? Would that help with making companies more aware of what's going on and how to protect themselves?
Yeah, so absolutely. So of course, that would help. So the developing our capacities at the institutional level, where we have specialized courses in cybersecurity, is definitely a positive, and that would help. In the bigger picture, it's not going to have an immediate impact, certainly, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. We need to better appreciate cybersecurity professionals, and as such, it's better that we have institutions that train them. The good thing with cybersecurity is it mustn't, the education around cybersecurity must not, it doesn't necessarily have to be institutionalized. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, a bachelor's degree course, a master's course, the PhD. That helps, right? But the field is so wide, and there are specialized courses that can actually be executed in such a way that it is not under, the core financial and the core educational institutions. And I think the Ministry of, Infotech is kind of like embracing that with the, 3MTT program, the training program that they're doing. I know that cybersecurity is one of the core focus areas also. So that is definitely a welcome development.
Well, Mr. Omosigo, thank you very much for speaking with us this morning on this conversation.
No problem at all. Thank you very much.
Our guest this morning is Ozo Omosigo. He is with 0 and 1 as the technical lead. And we're talking about the NDPC's announcement that some 17 major cases of data breaches are being investigated across various sectors, including the finance, technology, education, consulting, government, logistics, as well as the gaming and lottery sectors.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM.